Can I share something with you today that I am really bad at? Oh gosh. I'm really bad at jumping into stuff before I realize what I should have been aware of. Listen, in 2023 in beekeeping, there's some things you need to be aware of. If you're like me and sometimes you don't always count the cost, or you don't do all your research, or you don't realize what is really involved in this, you can be pretty frustrated and pretty disappointed. So whether you're a new beekeeper starting out in 2023, or whether you've been doing this for a while, these 9 tips today are really going to be good for you. I've got 8 tips and a bonus tip at the end. Let's get right into it. The first thing I want to beware you about is beware about starting too early in the season. Now, this seems kind of strange. How can you start too early, right? Well, you can. Sometimes we order our packages of bees and they let you select a date that you want your bees to be delivered or picked up. And we're all gung-ho. We want to start right away. And so sometimes we say, oh, I think it's going to be pretty nice in March, so I'll get my bees on March the 1st. Well, it snows the whole month of March. And your bees that you got on the 1st of March are just sitting in a box being covered with snow. And they were in a nice warm place where they were getting a lot of nectar and flowers, maybe in the south or southwest. Don't get your bees much more than a week or 2 before you have strong dandelions. I don't mean just one dandelion that popped up. I mean, when it comes where the yard is just covered in dandelions or a field is covered, you can probably get your bees about a week or 2 before that. And maybe a week, but don't get them a month before dandelions, or they're going to have a hard time. Second thing I want you to be aware of is be aware of getting your equipment before you get your bees. A lot of times people don't really understand about equipment, how that works. Listen, big bee companies have trouble keeping up with orders. And so you may go online with one of these big companies. You may place your order, let's say in February or March, getting your hives coming to you. And all at once you realize that the company didn't tell you they were backlogged or they were out of stock. Now your bees are going to be here in 2 weeks. You still don't have a hive. When you call the company, they go, yeah, we're trying to get that shipped out, but it may be later than we anticipated. And now you're in a uh-oh moment. I'm getting my bees before my equipment arrives. So make sure you understand that. We're all ordering hives at the same time, and it just overwhelms companies that get them all shipped out in time. The third beware moment I want to give you, a lot of people order their bees and they're all excited. They take a class, they get their hive and everything, but then they fail to realize that in their city, they can't keep bees. In their county, they can't keep bees, or in their state, there's regulations about how they're supposed to get bees and all that. So I really want you to spend some time, whatever state you live in, if you're here in the U.S., figure out if you're allowed to keep bees or not, because that's going to be a dull moment in your life when somebody drives up and says, are those bees in your backyard? You know, it's illegal to keep those in this city, don't you know that? Or sometimes there's regulations about how many hives you have, and so you need to understand that. The fourth tip is very similar in that it's about local municipalities that want to see that you've taken a beekeeping class before you start beekeeping in that city. Not all cities are like this, but some do. And we have many people that ask us for certification of courses they take with us to show to municipalities. I can understand why cities might be doing this. I think it's for the safety of the public. For example, if you're a new beginner and you don't know how to control swarms and you get a hive that's just swarming and swarming and swarming, that kind of like freaks out your neighbors. You know, even though they're okay with you having bees over there, all at once they see this big cloud of bees, thousands of bees in this swarming in the area. It's like some scene out of a Hollywood movie. And for people that don't understand honeybees, they're pretty much thinking they're going to die or be killed. So I think a lot of municipalities feel that if somebody is responsible enough to become educated in beekeeping, they'll be a lot safer and more on the ball beekeeper. The fifth thing that you need to be aware of is, where do you place your hive? Big question for a lot of you. You ask me this all the time. Whenever I see new beginners, that's one of the top questions. They'll walk up to me and say, where should I put my hive? Next to my barn, next to my tree, next to this, that, facing east, west, south. It's interesting. I'm just kind of surprised that people are putting so much energy and time into figuring out where to put their bees, as if that's going to be a magic answer for a healthier bee colony. It really isn't that much. I mean, we want to put them in mostly sunlight to cut down on small hive beetle, and we want to stay away from the hive getting wet, if there's a real soggy soil that you're putting them on, we don't want to put them in a wet place. It needs to be kind of dry. But for the most part, facing east, west, or south, it doesn't really matter that much. But I really think it's important to realize what is a safety factor for where you're putting them. What's best for the bees is good to know, but really what's best for everybody around you. For example, are you going to put them in your backyard next to a fence, next to your neighbor's fence, and inside your neighbor's fence is a big sandbox and a play area where their kids like to play? That would be the wrong place to put your colony. Or maybe you're putting it close to a clothesline. The day that you installed your bees or put your hive there weren't any clothes on the clothesline, so it kind of didn't register, right? And then all at once one day when all the clothes were hung up there to dry, the bees flew out after a rainy day to get stretched out and do some cleansing flights, and they cleansed themselves all over your clothes, if you know what I mean. They pooped all over your white shirts, your underwear, and that's not a good scene. Think ahead about where am I going to put these so that it's good for the people around me, good for me. You put them by where you park your cars, they're going to poop on your windshield. So kind of think through the placement of your hive long before. Be aware, because once your bees are nailed down and flying from one location, you can't move them. Don't just think you can go out there and say, oh, look, this is the wrong place that I put my hive. I'm going to pick my hive up before they get too big, and I'm going to put them over here because that way it won't interfere with things over here. Well, the bees can't figure that out. They'll just go right here where they used to be. They'll never figure out where their house is. So you got to be sure that once you figure out where you want to put your hive, you keep it there. But really spend some time thinking, how is this going to affect other people, myself? If bees are going to be pooping every time they leave the colony, let's make sure that's thought through well. Now, this is one that a lot of people fail to realize. Beware that even though this might be your first year to start, or maybe you're a beekeeper that's already started and you've got a lot of hives going, beware that in the spring, it's possible for all colonies to swarm. Yes, even brand new packages. Now, it's not as likely for a brand new package to swarm as it is an established colony, because a brand new package, they're building up. But look, sometimes it happens. And so you need to have some equipment. You've probably thought through, I need to buy 1 hive or 2 hive, however many you want to buy, and you've got packages of bees to match that. But what you don't have is extra equipment. Even if your hive doesn't swarm, guess what's going to happen? Everybody's going to realize that you're a beekeeper. And so now in the town near you, they're going to be like, hey, David, I heard you're keeping bees. I've got a swarm in my tree. Can you come and get them? And you kind of want to do that because you would like a free bunch of bees, right? But you don't have any equipment. So you call your favorite beekeeping company and say, I need a hive as soon as I can get it too, because I'm trying to catch a swarm. Well, when you catch a swarm, you're going to put it in a hive and hope they stay there. But if you catch it and put it in a shoe box, a cardboard box you have laying around, they're going to go in there. You can't put any frames in there, and they're likely to leave again. So it's important that you have some swarm equipment on standby, not only for yourself when your bees may swarm, but for when people call you because they know that you're a beekeeper. So be sure and spend a little extra money and at least buy a bottom board, a deep, and a top cover and some frames where you can catch those swarms. And meanwhile, you can buy more equipment to add to it as they grow. Aren't these great tips? Some of you are going, oh, I never thought about that before. And if you really like the content that I'm creating, give Bobblehead David a thrill today by subscribing. He'll appreciate that a lot. He's holding the subscribe button. By the way, when you subscribe and click on the bell to be notified, click on all notifications. That way, YouTube will let you know David just made a new video on beekeeping, and you may want to watch it. Now, let's get into our next tip. Tip number 7 about bee delivery days. This is especially the case if you're brand new to beekeeping and you don't know how this works. Well, bees are perishable in a package, a plastic package or a wood cage with screen. They can't stay in there very long. And so when the package bee producer says, I think I'm going to have this ready for you to pick up, or it's going to be delivered to you on April the 22nd, it's very possible that the date will change. So don't freak out. You have to go into this, get into beekeeping knowing that bees are livestock And those of us that produce packages of bees, weather changes, our queen production changes, maybe what they're getting nectar changes. And so our production of these packages gets thrown off schedule by the bees, not by us. I mean, don't freak out when people say, oh no, they changed the date. They're going to be a week early. They're going to be a week late. Be prepared for that. That's how this works. We have to work our schedule around honeybees because a package of bees, the bees can't stay in that package for 2 or 3 weeks like a pair of shoes at the shoe store. They're a living organism. They can't stay in there very long. They'll run out of food. They'll get too hot. The ones that are getting older are dying, laying on the bottom of the cage. Get to the place where your bees are needing to be picked up on the day they tell you, even if it's different than the original date. Be flexible. Tip number 8, this gets everybody. A lot of people just don't get about the Varroa Destructor. This mite that is in honeybees, maybe I'll make a video tomorrow or the next day about this, because this mite is really what's causing so many problems in our honeybees today. A lot of people get bees and they think, well, I don't have to worry about the Varroa Destructor mites. I don't see any, not a big deal. If I get them, I'll just do something about it or whatever. But it is a big deal. This can make you lose your entire investment. This will destroy your bees. It will kill your bees by spreading viruses. And you'll lose money on the class you took. You'll lose money on the equipment you bought. And it's a fun hobby that all at once is gone just because you didn't realize you needed to be more aware of how to control the Varroa Destructor mite. Came into our country about 1987, late 80s, early 90s, and began to wreak havoc on the beekeeping community. We've been battling these ever since. I'll make a video tomorrow on how to deal with this mite, how I deal with it, and you can apply that to your operation. But the final tip I want to leave with you is a good one, and it's going to be in my next video about how you do bee inspections. As a new beginner, maybe as an existing beekeeper, you want to polish up your inspection skills. This next video I want to show you will help you understand how to do an inspection, especially how do you evaluate your queen's performance, because it all comes down to her. Take a look at this video. I'll see you over there.